everybody, welcome back to ZoEpileptic. Since I made my first video 2 weeks ago, I've been saying that I'm going to make a video about mental health. And here it is. I think I've finally done enough research to make a really considerate and well thought out video about this. Because I don't only want to share my experience, but I also just want to talk about the facts so that you can understand maybe where this mental health issue is coming from, maybe better how to deal with it. Below is all the references and websites that I use to research this. I've also left the numbers and email addresses of organisations such as Anxiety UK, Mind, the Samaritans, and there are a lot more down there. So have a look. And if you feel like you're struggling, give one of these people a call because they are actually really helpful and they are available a lot of the time. So firstly, I want to talk about the one that I think has affected me the most and is the biggest mental health kind of effect that you get from epilepsy, which is depression. Now, 1 in 6 people in the general population will develop depression at some point in their life, which is really high when you think about it. For an epileptic person, your chance of developing depression is 1 in 3. So we have a doubled chance of becoming depressed. Now, depression manifests itself in loads of ways. Now, the symptoms of depression are obviously having a very low mood and feeling very sad. It also causes hopelessness, guilt, anxiety, exhaustion, not being able to sleep, losing interest in your hobbies, losing interest in sexual activity, over or under eating, and then, of course, it can lead to suicidal thoughts. So what causes this depression? As I mentioned in my side effects video, depression is a symptom of a lot of the medications you're taking. So if you're someone who really hasn't had depression before or has already been on another epilepsy medication and has been fine, you might want to kind of document how your medication is affecting you and whether or not you think this depression is getting worse because of a new medication. And as I said before, if this is an issue that you have, please do contact your neurologist, contact your GP, because it is really serious. Now, I want to talk about why I think I became depressed. Firstly, I think it was because of the medication, but I think the majority of my depression was caused by what I think of as this loss of control. So I felt very much like I wasn't being allowed to do things because I wasn't allowed to drive. I wasn't allowed to stay up late like everybody else. I wasn't allowed to go swimming on my own. I wasn't even allowed to have a bath. I just felt so controlled. And that's something that I really, really struggled with because I was like, why am I different? And I thought that my body hated me. I really thought that it hated me. And so I hated it. I really struggled with self-image during this time. I just thought that I was the ugliest, fattest, most grotesque person in the earth because my body hated me, so I hated my body. Self-confidence is still something I really struggle with today, but that's been caused by a lot of the things. Another big part of it for me, and I think the most dangerous part of it for me, was a fear of mortality. Now, mortality is not something I think you can properly comprehend at the age of 17. When I was 4, I had a near-death experience where I fell over and hit my head. I shattered my skull, had a massive blood clot in my brain, and nearly died. And I was very young, so you think that I would have fully understood mortality, and I thought that I did. I was much more scared of other things than other children because I was really, really scared of getting hurt. But then when I was 17 and I had this seizure and I fell and I hurt myself and people were saying to me, you could die, you could have died, mortality just hit me like so hard. And I was so terrified of it. And because one of the reasons seizures are so scary is because you don't know when it's going to happen, you don't know where it's going to happen, you don't know who you're going to be with, you don't know what you're going to fall on or hit your head on. And so I decided that I wanted to take control of my own mortality. And this is where we come into the issue of self-harming and suicide for people with epilepsy. Now, I started self-harming because, like I said before, my body hated me, so I hated my body. I wanted to control my mortality. I felt by, in a way, doing this, I was controlling whether or not I had my life. And I know it sounds really twisted and confusing for somebody who hasn't experienced something like this, but sorry, it's so hard to talk about. I just need a second. Now, according to a study that I have put below, epilepsy people are 2.6 to 5 times more likely to have suicidal thoughts or try and commit suicide or hurt themselves. Now, I found that one of the times where I feel the most depressed because of my epilepsy is after a seizure. Just before, you've had this new seizure, I feel like I get this idea in my head that, like, it's actually over now and I don't have to worry about it. And then as soon as it comes back, it's just being, like, slammed down to earth, pulled underwater. You just feel consumed by this feeling like it's never over. It's never going to be over. This is going to keep on happening to me constantly. This is going to be the rest of my life. This is going to control me. And I think this is where a lot of it comes from. I know that it did for me because I'm the sort of person, I don't like feeling controlled. And I I still feel controlled by this kind of demon that I feel like lives on my back. And I'm saying all of this to you now, and I don't have any issues with suicidal thoughts or self-harm anymore, but the depression isn't gone. It definitely is still there. And I try my best to deal with it, and I think I do deal with it really well, but it doesn't mean that it isn't sat on my shoulder, because it all comes with the next topic I want to talk about, which is anxiety. Now, anxiety is something that I really, really struggle with. Seizure anxiety is just horrible. As soon as you get a jerk, for those of you who aren't watching, who don't have epilepsy, jerks are kind of like, you get them before you're going to have a seizure, in which your body kind of, how would I describe it? My description of it would be that your body kind of, your mind turns off for a second and your body kind of goes like a jerk. Pretty self-explanatory. And as soon as I get jerks, I have anxiety attacks because I panic. I'm like, I don't want to have a seizure. I don't want to have a seizure. I take my emergency medication. But I'm freaking out. And another time that I end up really freaking out about my epilepsy, if I realize that I've forgotten to take my pills. The other day, I was about to go out, and I have this little, my pill boxes look like this. So there's one for the morning and one for the evening. And so I take them out with me individually, which is really useful. They come in this little case. I highly recommend trying to find some like this because they are excellent. And when I took it out, I realized that the morning dose hadn't been taken. I take my morning dose at 10 a.m. I take my evening dose at 10 p.m. and it's 6 p.m. So I'm panicking, obviously. And then I start getting really anxious and I couldn't breathe and I started freaking out. And the thing is that anxiety for me can trigger seizures. So having an anxiety attack like that is really bad. I managed to calm myself down, and having someone with me, I know that it doesn't help a lot of people and people just want to be left alone. But having someone with me makes it much easier because I feel less scared, especially when I'm really concerned about seizures. And I think a great recommendation is, even if you do want to be left alone, you're big into your personal space, just have someone in a different room. Have them in the room next door. If you're having a time where there are a lot of seizures happening in your life, just get a friend to come and stay with you, or just go and stay with your family. You don't even have to see them. Just have them in the same house, because it means either you can try and alert them when something's going to happen, or they'll be there if you end up injuring yourself. And if you have tonic-clonic seizures, most likely they'll hear you because you make quite a loud noise. The thing about anxiety as well is it's not just panic attacks, it's not just feeling anxious, it's not just feeling nervous. It has a physical toll on your body. After I get really anxious, I always look really pale and kind of dragged out and freaked out. And the one that's worse for me is stomach pains. Now, I already have IBS, and anxiety makes my IBS so bad. Big up Buscopan, honestly, savior of my life. And people don't really realize how bad stomach pain can affect you. There was a time in my life after I started taking my epilepsy medication where I had stomach pain that was so bad I had to be hospitalized because they thought that there was something wrong with me. They did all the body scans, some reasonably intrusive scans, and they found nothing. It turns out it was all because of my anxiety and depression. So there are so many crazy things that come hand in hand with this. People with epilepsy are 10 to 22 times more likely to have OCD. Now, OCD isn't quite what you think it is. I really recommend researching OCD and having a look at the actual symptoms because you are at so much of a higher chance of having it. Once again, I have added resources below about that. Finally, I want to talk about getting help. The recommended help they tell you to get is usually something called cognitive behavioral therapy, in which it kind of retrains the way that you think and actually does help a huge amount of people. But the issue is, at a time like this with COVID, it's really difficult to get this treatment easily. Obviously, counseling and therapy is another really important option, and teaching kind of ways in which to relax yourself if you feel like you're going to have some kind of anxiety attack or you're feeling really nervous. Things like meditation, mindfulness, and of course there is always the option of going on medication. Now, I went on medication for my depression and anxiety. I didn't react well to the medication, so I kind of tried to learn different methods in order to help myself. Like I said before, the depression isn't gone away. And maybe these methods aren't going to fully help me in a way that medication could, but I know that for me and a lot of you out there, you're probably really, really sick of taking the medication. So that's a route that I try and avoid. So please do talk to your GP or neurologist. They will help you find the best path much better than Google searches or me. This is just kind of trying to give you guys some kind of idea about the facts and about my experience. Now I want to tell you about the way that I deal with my anxiety and depression. Like I said before, it's useful to have someone around for me. I also find that doing my skateboarding, like I showed in my last video, obviously I built up a lot of anxiety around that because of my last seizure. But stuff like that, I find so good because I find it really hard to meditate because my mind is like a million miles an hour constantly. But when you're on a skateboard, also wear your helmet. If you're on a skateboard, there's pretty much nothing you can think about other than not falling off your skateboard. I think same with things like team sport, like football. It's hard to think about anything else rather than trying to kick the ball to the right person. So it's about doing things that are fully distracting. Another thing that I find really useful, which a lot of people are going to be like, that is crazy, and find your own way to do it, is this sort of thing. So when I feel really stressed out and anxious, I feel like doing something artistic really helps me. And I found that makeup, kind of this like fun, like bejeweled kind of makeup, doing that is relaxing because, like I said before, I feel a lot of self-confidence issues. So looking at myself in the mirror and looking at myself almost as this canvas and doing something creative that looks really cool, and you can post pictures and people will say, oh wow, that looks amazing, and it can give you a lot of confidence, and it's also just really, really fun to do. I love to paint and sew and do things like that. I have a really short attention span, so I will run through activities very fast. This is my newest one. But yeah, doing something totally distracting. And sometimes when I feel super anxious and super depressed, I go this crazy. Something else I use, like I said, I can't really meditate, is full body relaxation. So you lay down, you take some deep breaths. You don't have to turn your mind off as much for this as trying to focus on being still and quiet. You tense your toes and then let them go. Tense your feet and then let them go. Tense all of your body and slowly let it go bit by bit. And try and kind of feel what's inside of you. So actively think about, I don't know, like what your flesh feels like or what your bones feel like and how your muscles move inside your body. And that sounds really gross and crazy, but it really does help me when I feel like I'm gonna have an anxiety attack or start freaking out. Something else is that you need to remember that crying is totally fine. Feeling really sad is totally fine. Being emotional and having feelings is so valid, and you need to make sure that you don't have anybody around who's telling you that you're depressing or you're too sad all the time or whatever. You make them feel bad, because those are not the people to have in your life. If you have depression and anxiety, these are the people who are going to make you feel so much worse. I spent a lot of my time staying with people who told me I was depressing, upsetting, who didn't care that I was self-harming. But also make sure that if you have a friend who's going through these things, or if you're going through these things, remember that you are not a therapist. You can be there for your friends and you can help them and you can give them advice. But if you have a friend who is suicidal, who is severely depressed, you need to offer to help them get professional help. And you can offer as much advice as you like and as much love as you like and listen as much. But you need to make sure that if someone is having serious issues, they need to go and see their doctor. They need to talk to their GP or any kind of professional. Now, I have a lot of regrets, as I've mentioned before, about the way I behaved after I found out I had epilepsy and about kind of the aggression part of it all. And a lot of that came through the depression and anxiety. I was mad at the world. I was mad at everything, and I really stopped being myself. I do regret it, but I regret more that I didn't ask for help. And I regret more that the people I had surrounded myself with didn't care enough to try and help me or get me that help. And the other people who were people that I really loved and would have helped me, I pushed them all away. So these are my experiences. These are the facts. Every resource you need is below. I do implore you, please do seek help. Please do help your friends. Make sure that you surround yourself with the right people. And it's really hard to do. It's really easy advice to give. And I know that I didn't really listen before, but I do implore you, please do help yourself. Do help your friends. Make sure you're kind to other people. You know, if someone's not behaving like themselves, don't push them out of your life. Ask them, why are you behaving this way? Why do you feel this way? Because that person could be going through something you don't understand. Something like discovering you have a chronic illness that could, potentially hurt you at any time. The takeaways that I want to give from this video are, it is always okay to be sad. It is always fine. If you feel sad, then you feel sad. You can talk to someone. You can do something to cheer yourself up. You can do something relaxing. You can cry your eyes out if you want. Be sad for as long as you want, as much as you want. But if you do feel sad and you feel like you want to talk to somebody, reach out, try and talk to people. And you know what? If they ignore you, then they're not people worth talking to. But you really will discover who your friends are. Make sure that you monitor how you're feeling. Try your best not to be self-destructive and to talk to GPs. I know it can be really difficult to talk to doctors, and it can really be very difficult, the concept that they might start trying to put you on medication. Pretty much, you are not alone. You're never alone. Go and join an epilepsy forum. Go and join a forum for your chronic disability. See how other people are dealing with this. People will always be there to help you. Strangers will help you. Since starting this channel, I've done a couple of posts on my Instagram, also linked below, about how I've been feeling really down and really upset. I've had strangers, people I've never met before, messaging me saying, keep on doing what you're doing, you're amazing, don't feel sad, message me anytime. There's always going to be some support for you. And you know, I really hope I can be of support to you, whoever you are. So if you're feeling sad, send me a message on my DMs on Instagram, leave a comment below. I will try and get back to you, answer any questions you have about my experience. And yeah, I really hope that this video helped people. I feel very proud of myself for being able to share my story like this. Don't feel any pressure to share your story if you don't want to, but know that you're not alone. You're never, ever alone. There will always, always be someone there, whether they're across the world in Australia, whether they're your best mate who lives down the road. There's always, always going to be someone. And you know, as long as I'm around, you guys will always have me. So that was super cheesy. Lots of love to everyone. I hope that you guys found this video useful. I hope that I did enough research and made it compassionate enough. I really didn't want to offend or scare anyone. All right, thank you so much for watching. So much love to all you guys, and I'll see you next time.